Chapter 1. The Weapon That Changed Warfare. Imagine standing on a battlefield in 1898 and hearing 18,000 bullets fired in less than 10 minutes. The weapon responsible would change warfare forever, but its inventor claimed he built it to save lives. His name was Richard Gatling, and the gun that carried his name became one of the most controversial inventions in history. But why did he build it? And did it achieve what he hoped? Chapter 2. Before the Gatling gun. To understand Richard Gatling, you first need to understand America in the mid-1800s. Disease killed more soldiers than bullets. During wars, thousands died from infections, poor sanitation, and overcrowded camps. Armies were large, medical care was limited, and military commanders believed victory depended on putting more men into battle. Most inventors accepted this reality. Richard Gatling did not, because he believed there had to be another way. Chapter 3. The Inventor. Richard Jordan Gatling was born in North Carolina in 1818. Unlike many famous weapons designers, he wasn't obsessed with war. He was obsessed with machines. Throughout his life, he created inventions designed to make work easier. He developed agricultural equipment, mechanical improvements. In fact, before he became famous for weapons, he was better known as an inventor of farming machinery. But the American Civil War would eventually pull his attention towards something much larger, something far more dangerous. Chapter 4. A dangerous idea. As the Civil War raged, Gatling noticed something disturbing. Thousands of soldiers were dying before they ever reached combat. Disease spread rapidly through crowded camps. The larger the army, the greater the suffering. And that's when Gatling developed a controversial theory. What if a smaller army could achieve the same battlefield results? What if one machine could replace hundreds of soldiers? According to Gatling himself, that was the inspiration behind his most famous invention. A weapon powerful enough to reduce the number of men required in battle. Whether history agrees with that reasoning is another question entirely. Chapter 5. The Gatling gun. In 1862, Richard Gatling unveiled his invention, the Gatling gun. Here's how it worked. 6 barrels arranged around a central shaft. As the operator turned a hand crank, the barrels rotated in sequence. Each barrel loaded a fresh cartridge at the top of the cycle, fired at the bottom, and ejected the spent casing before rotating back up to reload. The crank kept turning, the barrels kept cycling, and the gun kept firing, again and again and again. The result was astonishing, a firing rate unlike anything most soldiers had ever seen. One operator could unleash a volume of fire previously requiring dozens of men. For many observers, it felt like a glimpse into the future, but not everyone was impressed. Chapter 6. The world reacts. Military leaders were cautious. Some feared the weapon was too complicated. Others worried it would consume ammunition too quickly. Many officers simply resisted change. As a result, the Gatling gun wasn't immediately embraced. But once armies witnessed its capabilities, opinions began to change. Governments around the world started purchasing the weapon. The United States, Britain, Russia, and many others. Suddenly, Richard Gatling's invention was spreading across the globe. By the 1890s, the Gatling gun had become famous. But nobody yet knew whether it could truly change a battle. That answer would come in Cuba. Chapter 7. The day the Gatling gun proved itself. July 1st, 1898, San Juan Hill, Cuba, the Spanish-American War. American forces were pinned down. Spanish rifle fire rained from the heights above. Advancing seemed almost impossible. Then Lieutenant John Henry Parker arrived. He had brought something new. 3 Gatling guns. Parker ordered his crews to deploy. The guns were positioned overlooking the Spanish defenses. Then they opened fire. For 8.5 minutes, the Gatlings did not stop. Round after round, barrel after barrel rotating through, 18,000 bullets poured toward the Spanish positions. The firing was so relentless that Spanish soldiers struggled to return fire. When the guns finally fell silent, American forces surged forward, and San Juan Hill fell. For the first time, the world had witnessed what rapid-fire weapons could truly do in battle. Not during a demonstration, not during a test, but in war. Chapter 8. The Controversy. The Gatling gun made battlefields more deadly. There was no denying that. Critics argued the invention increased the destructive power of war. Supporters, including Gatling himself, claimed it reduced the number of soldiers required to fight. Fewer soldiers meant fewer men exposed to disease, fewer men exposed to battle, and fewer deaths overall. So was Richard Gatling a humanitarian inventor, or the man who helped create modern warfare? Even today, historians continue debating his true legacy. But one thing is certain: once the Gatling gun appeared, the world could never go back. Chapter 9. The Future of War. The original Gatling gun eventually gave way to newer designs. Inventors improved upon the concept. Automatic weapons became faster, lighter, more efficient. Then came the Maxim gun, the first truly automatic machine gun, and later, the devastating weapons of the 20th century. But nearly all of them owed something to Gatling's breakthrough. Because before Richard Gatling, rapid-fire weapons were rare. After Richard Gatling, they became the future. Chapter 10. The Legacy. Richard Gatling died in 1903. He went to his grave believing his invention had saved lives. History remains divided on that claim, but his influence never disappeared. The original Gatling gun vanished from battlefields. Its legacy did not. More than a century later, modern rotary cannons still use principles inspired by his design. The A-10 Warthog's massive GAU-8 cannon, the phalanx defense systems protecting warships, the miniguns mounted on helicopters. All of them trace part of their lineage back to a hand-cranked weapon invented in 1862. Richard Gatling wanted to change war, and whether for better or worse, he succeeded. Richard Gatling is gone. His invention isn't. More than 160 years later, it's still firing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary and would like to see more stories about the inventors, weapons, and moments that changed history, consider subscribing and let me know in the comments. Was Richard Gatling a humanitarian inventor, or the man who helped create modern warfare?